Hello, welcome to Verbling. I'm teacher Oakley. In today's class, we will continue looking at the TOEFL listening test. This is the fourth class this week at this time slot, in which we have been studying up for the TOEFL listening exam. Today's class will consist of basically straightforward practice. We're going to look at the conversation and try that. And then we'll try an interview type and another interview type. Anyway, just straight up practice, looking at the exam and basically, as we look at the practice questions, we'll be looking for really two things. You're looking at how to find the right answer, but maybe even more so, because you have to use process of elimination, you're looking for the wrong answers as well. That is basically, pardon me, the technique that you need to use. Process of elimination, get rid of the answers that don't work, and hopefully you're left with the correct answer. Okay. The TOEFL listening test, about an hour long. It consists of different recordings of a conversation. Always has something to do, usually a student. The student will be possibly talking to another student about a problem. Basically, there's three types of conversations. There's a problem the student has, and the other student will make suggestions. There's some new event, some big news on campus, new policy, maybe, that's very common, and the arguments for and against it, or what you're going to be answering questions about. Or the third type is a service encounter. The student will be talking to a librarian, or someone at the bookstore, or the school bursar about finances, who knows, whatever. So they'll be asking questions related to somebody needs information is the deal. It's a service encounter where someone needs information or doesn't know how to do something, so they're going to get instructions. It's common. So usually you're listening for whoever the service person is going to give instructions or procedures often. Oh, this happens, then this happens, then this happens. So you need to be making notes of the procedure. The other type of listening is the lecture, professor lecturing about a academic topic. Nice long lecture. 3-4 minutes, and you'll be answering about 6 questions about the lecture. The conversations usually is 5 questions you're answering. That varies slightly. In any case, come on in and join me, and we'll just practice. I highly recommend that you come to class be prepared to make notes in some way or another. Have a pencil and paper or notepad on your computer open, something, because it's pretty difficult to do the listening without taking notes. Again, I'll get started as soon as somebody joins me here in the class. We'll get started with the actual practice. I'm just basically procrastinating here until someone joins me. The note taking, I recommend, it's up to you, whatever you're good at. It's up to the individual, whoever you may be, how good you are at taking notes and listening spontaneously. But for myself, it's quite difficult. My notes may consist of 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 words, maybe at the most, words. And after listening to a 4-minute lecture, not a lot. I'm only making notes of the key words which outline the key points. so that I can use those keywords to answer the questions, because the questions are not super detailed. The TOEFL listening test doesn't really go in for much detailed information. Occasionally, you know, 1 out of 6 questions may be more of a detailed question, but mostly these questions are all about the general idea. That's the idea is you have to generally understand what's going on, and that's what you're being tested on. Frequently, the first question is, what is the problem? For example, in a service encounter or in a conversation, a problem, student has a problem. Just what is the problem? This is very, very common. Or maybe in a lecture, a summary. What is this lecture about? This is really common, and so this basically kind of a summary question. Almost every, again, you listen to conversation, questions, lecture, questions, conversation, questions, lecture, questions. Okay, so you listen, you answer a few questions. You listen, you answer a few questions. Pretty much each section you go through, there's going to be a summary question. Not 100%, but pretty much all of them. So again, the emphasis is to get the main idea. And then once you have the main idea, the summary, then the main points are the next questions. So hopefully, if I'm good at listening and taking notes, I will be writing down the keywords, which are the main points. Of course, the other thing to kind of keep in mind when taking the exam is that they're trying to trick you, not only in listening, in actually pretty much every aspect of this exam. If it were easy, everyone would do it, right? Well, it's not easy because they have trap questions and tricks. For example, possible answer, there'll be, of course, maybe A, B, C, D, multiple choice. A is the correct answer. B may be exactly the opposite. C may be partially true, but not entirely true. D may be something that's not even mentioned whatsoever. Actually, that one, many people say, oh, I don't remember them saying that. And then they worry, oh, I must have missed something. No, actually, if you can't remember it being in there, it's because it was never in there. Just eliminate that answer. That's one that causes many test takers to panic. They kind of freak out and don't realize that that's a trap answer. So, okay, that's another one that's very common. A partial answer will have maybe, here's another thing to keep in mind. This is actually very important. Understanding the relationships between things. Frequently in the lectures, especially, there's something's outlined as a process. This A causes B, which then results in C. If the question, the possible answers will say, does A result in C? Well, not directly, no, because it results in B, and B results in C. Things of that nature, understanding the relationship between the key points. Does one cause one? Is one a natural occurrence of another? Are they similar things, but not cause and effect? You're talking about two different things, but they are separate examples. Understanding these things is crucial. That's what the questions really are. The questions talk about the main idea, the overall summary, and then the main points and how they interrelate. That's basically the whole thing. So your notes need to reflect that idea. You need to be able to organize your notes whatever, 1, 2, 3, ABC with an arrow showing one first this, then that. Okay, so you organize how your note-taking style, so you know how you were going to express the idea of cause and effect, or equal sign. These are two equal examples, two equal theories that the lecturer is expressing. Plus minus signs in your notes to talk for positive points. There may be cases where a lecturer is giving positive and negative points for something. All right, a little plus sign. Advantages, disadvantages, plus. Okay. Expense, plus. Time, minus. Social problems, minus. Pollution, whatever. That may be my notes for a certain type of lecture where the lecturer is comparing the good and bad points about something. So realizing that that's basically what you're looking at will help you out a lot. Okay, well, I got no playmates to actually practice the test. So I suppose I'll just sit here and take the test myself. Of course, it's a listening test, so it would be great if I had somebody to listen, but all right, I do not. So, okay. All right, I'll just read through an example. First of all, a couple of things. You're going to see a picture as you're listening. Don't pay attention to the picture. It can give some valuable clues as to what they're talking about. At the very least, you're going to see who's talking, because it always has a picture of the speakers. So you'll get an idea of, oh, it's a man and a woman conversation. It's a professor standing in front of a board. Okay, first thing you'll hear is a narrator who sounds something a lot like this. Listen to part of a conversation at a university library. Then you will hear something like this. Hi, may I speak to the archives librarian? I'm the archives librarian. What can I help you with? Well, actually, I'm not a student here. I'm studying history at State U, across town. But there's a collection of... oh, wait. Are you sorry, I don't remember your name, but the librarian over there asked me about giving someone access to the Jacobson collection. Is that you? Yeah, that's right. See, my paper is on the development of the coal mining industry here in the city, and the Jacobson collection has a lot of information about John Jacobson, like when he founded the company and things, right? Yes, it does. More than you'll be able to fit into a paper, I bet. Did your librarian explain what our system is here? Okay. Now, dun dun dun. This is what I've been waiting for. These are things to listen for. Did your librarian explain what our system is here? Okay, here it comes. Okay, all up above, there's going to be one question. Absolutely, I'm sure. I haven't even looked at this information before, but I am absolutely sure there's going to be a question about why is he talking to the librarian? There always is. Okay. Why? Okay, so write that down in your notes. Writing paper, coal mining industry, something like paper dash coal mining industry. I might write in my notes. I hear the librarian say, did your librarian explain what our system is here? My pencil is now poised because I'm going to hear a process. I'm going to hear what he needs to have. I am predicting this already in my mind. I am waiting to hear it. You need to be predictive. So, all right, fine. Continuing. A little. She told me to make sure I brought my college ID so I could get in the door. Yes, well, I'll need to take a copy of it too. Even our students who look at items from our archive collections have to leave a copy of their ID with us. You'll also have to sign into the archives room whenever you enter and sign out whenever you leave. There's a desk, for security. So, okay, if I'm making notes, I probably would have jotted down ID, sign in, /out. Wow, so a lot of this stuff is valuable. Well, I don't know whether you'd get much money for it, but a lot of it is one of a kind. So if it were taken, that's it. It'd be gone. I'll be careful. Thank you. The other thing is, in the Jacobson collection are more than 100, the things in the Jacobson collection are more than 100 years old. So I'll have to ask you to wear special gloves while handling the books. Also, I'm afraid you won't be able to photocopy anything. All right. Okay, this is me talking again. If it's me and I'm taking notes, I'm going to write down /gloves and / or dash no photocopy. These are the kind of notes that I would be using. I figured that. I can probably get everything I need on note cards, but suppose there's a page or two I really want a copy of. Can I don't know, take a picture of something? He's asking a question, a direct question, to perk up your ears because the answer has a large potential to have a question about it. Well, I can't let you take a picture, but we have scans, images of all the pages in the collection. You can buy a print of any page you want, but they're expensive, $5 a piece. So be sure to know which pages you want before you ask for them. Okay, again, pictures, line through it, or no picture, I might write in my notes. And then I might write scans equal $5. Okay, and then the finish, $5. Well, I guess, given how rare these things are. Okay, so you want a copy of my ID, and then you can tell me how to get to the archive rooms so I can get started. Okay, that is a transcript of a typical conversation. Obviously, this is what we would call a service encounter. Okay, let's look at the questions. Hang on, hold on just a second. Okay, there's a picture. All right, look, it's a librarian. Okay, very good. All right, this is what the typical questions look like. Here's your screen, TOEFL IBT, of course, computerized tests. Very simplistic. This is basically what you'd be looking at. Okay, 1 of 34, great. 34 questions. Okay, here we go. As I predicted. Wow, how did I do that? I guess I've seen, about 50 of these things. That's how. Okay, what does the man plan to write his paper on? All right, in other words, okay, what's his problem? What does he need? It's related to that. If you remember, I said I would write down something like capital letter P for problem or issue, whatever. Okay, I told you I would have written paper / coal industry. So my notes would make this answer extremely easy. I didn't really have to. It's already in my notes. As I described, I would take them. Very simple. Okay, here are the distractors. Preservation of old books. Okay, that's the issue he's dealing with because he's got to deal with old books. He's writing his paper on the coal industry. Again, if you make good notes, the answers will be incredibly easy. Politician, wasn't there at all. Okay, there was nothing about that. Old university buildings. Okay, you may assume that they're in an old building, but that has nothing to do with anything. Okay, moving on. What security procedures does the librarian tell the man he must follow? 2 answers. You must get both answers right to get the question right. If you get only one right, you don't get half a point or something. Okay, as I described in my notes, I would have written like a dash, the things you need, and then a negative, the things you don't need. I was easily able to predict this when I heard the woman say, did the other librarian tell you what you need to do? She's going to give me procedures. She's going to tell me what I need, what I don't need, what I can and can't do. Show note cards? Nope, I can eliminate that. He just mentions that he's going to use note cards. He doesn't, there's nothing about that. Allow his ID to be copied. That was in my notes. ID. That's it. I just wrote down -ID in my notes. That's all. Well, it's there in my notes, so I don't have to do a lot of deduction and process of elimination if I directly have the answer in my notes. So you can see that keeping good notes is essential. Submitted deposit of $5. That is if he wants a scan. Also in my notes, scan equals $5. Sign in and out of the archives room. Yeah, sign in / out was in my notes under ID. Boom, boom, simple. Can't really overestimate the value of being able to take good notes. Exactly what I explained I'd be taking notes of is exactly what's coming up as the questions. It's very predictable. They're all the same. Once you do a few, you'll start to see that the questions you from looking at, read a couple transcripts, see if you can figure out what the questions will be about. And then do the same thing listening. And it's always the same. They don't have a lot of wide varieties of what they present to you in this test. Okay, next question. Why does the woman say the archives need to be kept secure? I don't know the answer immediately from my notes, so let me use a little process of elimination. Students from other universities frequently use the collection. No, that's something I can infer because the student there is from another university, but that was not stated. So I'm going to eliminate that one. Set out some items are worth a lot of money. Okay, here we have a fake answer. Again, now I don't immediately know the answer, so I need to use process of elimination. This answer is exactly the opposite of what the woman said. She said, you probably would not get a lot of money for these things. I can remember that she said that. So, okay, classic trap answer, fake answer. In other words, eliminate it. That's great. Now I've increased my chances from 50%, from 25% to 50%. Many items cannot be replaced. Sounds terrific. She went on and on about once they're gone, that's it. They're gone. That sounds great, but I am not going to just go ahead and click on that response. I'm going to make sure I check. They will frequently have 2 possible answers, which are maybe even very close, but both sound very good. Okay, so don't, just because the first thing you read sounds good, don't pick that. Make sure you read all of them, because again, that's what they do. They have trick answers, so you've got to be careful. You've got to check everything. There have been several thefts recently. There was nothing about thefts at all. So, okay, another one of their fake answers, a fake answer that was not mentioned at all, not even remotely. So, C. Okay. Again, okay, that was pretty easy, just using process of elimination. I didn't know immediately from my notes, but didn't need them. Moving on. What did the librarian mention? Why did the librarian mention the age of the books? They needed to be handled with gloves. Well, I know that is true. Again, I don't know exactly. I can't remember exactly why she mentioned the age. So I know A is true, but that's maybe a question mark there. The man can only look at photographs of them. No, he's got to wear gloves because he's going to be touching the book. So that's just ridiculous. It defies logic and common sense. Occasionally, answers, false answers, will just defy all common sense. You know, if the answer is because turtles can fly, you can probably eliminate that answer. They were added to the collection recently. I don't remember anything about that. If it was mentioned, I don't remember it. Again, this is going to happen to you on the exam. You're going to look at it and go, oh, I don't remember. Did I miss something? Actually, 99 times out of 100, you don't remember it because it was never mentioned at all. So if you can't remember it at all, doesn't even sound familiar, then eliminate it. Don't second guess yourself. Don't waste time because you can't go back anyway. There's no point. They have increased in value. No, in fact, again, she said they're not really worth much money. So, okay, D is highly unlikely. That only leaves me with answer A, which I know to be true. And presto. Okay, process of elimination. Done. Okay. Then listen to part of the lecture. Okay. Oh, what is the part of the lecture? Oh, okay, we'll skip this one. I do not know. Okay, here we go. Psychology. Let's try listening to a lecture and then answering the questions. So you're going to see a picture. Okay, you know that it's a lecture coming up. All right. So start gearing up your brain to a lecture. You also know that quite possibly a student might ask a question during the lecture. Get ready to hear that. You're going to see a quick message on the board. Get ready to answer the questions. You may use your notes to help you answer. Okay. Okay. All right. Well, here's the lecture. If you're, for those scoring at home, go ahead, make some notes. Grab a piece of paper, grab a pencil, because I'm going to now give you a lecture. And then I'm going to look at the questions. I guess I will answer the questions myself unless somebody wants to join me here in the class. So, okay. Let's see. Hang on a second. I have to find my notes, if you don't mind. Give me just a second. And then I will proceed to give you an exciting lecture in English about psychology. Excellent. Okay, so you're going to have, don't forget, you'll always have the narrator. Come on, pay attention to the narrator. He can give you valuable information, particularly in listening. It helps you be predictive. In speaking, it can really help you because the narrator will give you keywords that you can use in the speaking, which is great. The narrator can rephrase things to make them more understandable. So the narrator will come on and say, Listen to a professor lecture on the process of memory. Well, there you go. You already have your topic, process of memory. Thank you, Mr. Narrator. Okay, here I go, pretending I'm a professor and doing a lecture. And again, make notes because we're going to look at the questions. Wet my whistle. Okay. Hello, class. A popular saying goes, an elephant never forgets. But how about people? Have you ever forgotten the name of someone you just met at a party? Sure, we all have. This is because our memories are complex processes. Now, we're not going to be able to talk much about the psychology or the physiology of memory here, both because, well, it's not our subject, and because there's a lot we still need to learn about how the brain stores things. One thing we do know is that the mechanism isn't simple when researchers scan the brain as a memory is forming. Parts seem to light up. By light up, I mean, become active in random scattered formations. But of course, they can't be random because memory produces very orderly results. One researcher, this is Walter Freeman of the University at Berkeley, compares it to two kinds of crowds. The impulses in the brain look completely random, like the movement of a mob of people who are frightened. They just keep moving and they're not really going anywhere and there's no pattern to their movement. That's the way impulses in the brain look at first. But since memory does, in fact, work, the impulses must be moving more like people in a crowded train station. If you've got people running in and out from one train to another, it seems like complete confusion. But really, they all know where they're going. They're following a set of instructions, the timetable for the trains, the board that tells which track is for which train, all that stuff. So you have to look carefully to see that there's actually organization, system involved. That's how memory impulses must function. Freeman figures we just haven't figured out what the timetable and track numbers are yet. So we'll leave the physiology there. We're going to talk about the psychology of memory, the actual process. Psychologists divide memory into three stages: registration, long-term retention, and recall. In the initial stage, registration, information is perceived and understood. Like when you first hear a name or address, this information is then retained in the short-term memory system. Unfortunately, the short-term memory is limited in the amount of material it can store at one time, and unless refreshed by constant repetition, the new contents are lost within minutes when replaced by even newer information. To solve this dilemma, the information needs to be transformed into the second stage, long-term retention. Okay, the conversion to the long-term retention stage is most easily accomplished using what the research team labeled association. Associating the new information with the visual imagery evoked by it gives the individual a sort of memory crutch to rely on. For example, let's say you're at a party and you just met a woman named Lily. To remember her name, you visualize or picture the flower, the lily. Oh, be sure to make it outlandish, kind of silly even. These images are more memorable. Picture her with a big basket of lilies, or wearing a hat with a lily on it, or even sitting inside of a giant lily. The third stage, recall, is when the information stored through long-term retention at an unconscious level is then deliberately brought into the conscious mind. However, this final stage primarily depends on how well the material was stored in stage 2. Of course, there are disturbances that may affect the recall stage. Age, for example. The older a person gets, the less new information he can recall. Disuse is another example. Here, forgetting occurs because stored information is not used and therefore is lost. Memory loss can also be physiological. If a person receives an injury to the head, he may experience what is known as amnesia, the failure to remember certain or even all events preceding the accident. Of course, many self-help books on how to improve your memory have been published, and many other mnemonic methods have been tried and tested. Let's take a closer look at some of those more widely accepted approaches to memory enhancement. Perhaps you may even incorporate some of them into your study habits as you prepare for the upcoming finals. Beep. And that's it. Now I'm going to go to the questions. Give me just a moment. And I will share the questions on the screen. Okay. As can be easily predicted, our first question is going to be a summary question. Oh, why am I not surprised? Because it always is. All right. What is the lecture mainly about? All right. Now, this should be in your notes every single time, conversation or lecture. You should be making notes of I write T for topic, T dash whatever it's about. Okay. Obviously, it's about memory. It's about okay, why some events are more memorable than others? No, although that may be inferred from the information, it is never directly spoken. So be very careful. You should not be inferring anything. Don't infer things. Either they said it or they didn't say it. Okay? Same thing in the reading exam. Either it's in the reading passage or it's not. It's not up to you to extrapolate or think further. Well, it's logical if he said this, then that must be true. Forget about that. That's never going to be a correct answer ever. Don't do that. If you feel that you are, then you're definitely headed down the wrong path. The process by which memories form in the brain. Well, if you're making notes, you should have written 1, 2, 3, because that's exactly what he did. He described exactly this process. Okay, even though I personally am 99.99% sure, I'm still going to check out answers C and D. Research on animals that may help explain human memory. There was never an animal mentioned. C is most certainly I would have remembered something about animals. C is definitely out of the question. D, ways students can strengthen their abilities to remember things. Okay, it is mentioned at the end of the lecture that maybe students in the next lecture can learn some tricks to strengthen their abilities. That was an intro for the next lecture, not what this lecture was about. So the answer is very clearly B, which again, we should definitely have written the word memories in our notes That's what it was about. Okay. Next question. Why does the professor say Walter Freeman mentioned two types of crowds? Okay. Pardon me. All right. Before the professor, me, before I got into speaking about the process 1, 2, 3, I mentioned about the the lecturer mentioned that the physiology would not be discussed, but he briefly introduced as an example what it looks like. Walter Freeman, two different kinds of crowds in the train station. Well, one in the train station, one just people frightened, and how disorderly it looks. Okay, did it have to do with anything to do with remembering information? No, this was meant way before the professor talked about recall. Near the end of the lecture, Walter Freeman was in the beginning of the lecture. There's another clue for you. If something's in the beginning and the answer happened in the end, it's almost certainly not related. B, scientists are studying why some people have better sense of direction than others. That's just funny because it's silly. The people in his examples were just used as a metaphor for nerve impulses. So that has nothing to do with that. I would definitely get rid of that answer. Impulses in the brain may follow a pattern researchers don't yet understand. Well, there you go. The whole concept of the train station, and even though you don't know where everybody's going, they do. Okay, C looks extremely good. Again, got to check, always check. Each unique individual person has a unique, each individual person has a unique way of remembering things. Well, no, that was not even close to his point. Thus, again, process of elimination and considering each answer, this is by far the best answer. C. Okay, what is the initial stage of memory called? If you recall, in the professor did a little transition. Okay, now I'm going to talk about what I'm really here to talk about, something of that nature, and he listed them very quickly. Then he went over each one with more detail. This will be common for you to hear in a TOEFL listening test. An introduction with 3 steps, 3 important points, 3 whatever, 2, 3, 4, whatever. They usually do this. There are 4 important points that you need to know. They're okay. There are 5 basic safety procedures that must be followed. Whatever. If you hear a number or even a quantifier, there are a few reasons. If you hear something like that, you really need to turn up your attention level to the highest possible degree. They will frequently list those things, but if you miss it, don't panic, because more likely than not, they're going to be going through them with more detail. So listen carefully for what they're actually called, or what he's labeling them as, he or she. Okay, the initial stage. I made notes. Frankly, I made little notes with arrows. And if you had made notes too, anybody want to join the class? Tell me what the answer is. My notes look like this. You really can't read them because I was writing while I was speaking to you. This is actually just as new material for me as it is for you guys. I wrote 1, registration. I didn't even write registration. I wrote R-E-G, arrow, S-T-M for short-term memory. Then I wrote 2, LTM, long-term memory, arrow, association. Then I wrote 3, recall, and then old, line through it, disuse, line through it, injury, line through it. That's how I styled my notes, meaning it's if I write the word and then put a line through it, it's a negative. Okay. Would my notes have helped? Well, absolutely. Initial stage, registration, I already have it in my notes. Labeled number 1. Number 1, initial. For me, in my note taking, this is a super fast question. It couldn't be more simple. Again, it's okay. TOEFL is all about knowing the relationship between the keywords that are being expressed. That's why I wrote 1, registration, arrow, STM. 2, I'm using the numbers and the arrows and the lines in my notes to express the idea of the relationship between these keywords. That's what all the questions are going to be about. So it's a decent way to go about it. Okay. Okay, what is the professor trying to illustrate? Some of the questions they will actually repeat the information. You'll be able to hear it again. In other words, and this question actually you wouldn't even see this question. You would hear it. The narrator would come on and say, "What is the professor trying to illustrate in this part of the lecture?" And then you would hear the professor talking. I don't even need to do that because just looking at the answers, I already know what the answer is without even listening to it. These answers are all related to the idea of association, associating a memory with a visual image. Great. People have an easier time remembering unusual images. If you remember, the professor talked about, think of a crazy thing sitting in a flower, whatever. Great, that seems to fit. Most memorable images come from nature. That's not the idea. No, it just happened to coincidentally, his example had to do with a flower. So no, that doesn't seem good. Some people have names with few easy associations. No, that I don't remember him saying anything about that. Again, if you don't remember him saying anything about that, that's probably because he never did. So eliminate that one. Large objects are easier to remember than small objects. That defies logic. What a silly thing to say. That just absolutely makes no sense in any kind of reality that I've ever been associated with. So highly unlikely. Thus we can see B. A is the correct answer, even though I didn't even listen to what they want me to say. This is the only thing that's even remotely true that was in the lecture. Don't have to listen to it. Okay. Next. What does the professor imply about a memory that has passed through the long-term retention stage? Oh, I have no idea what they want me to say, so I'm going to have to use process of elimination. Usually takes a long time to recall. I don't know that that's true. I'm curious. I don't know. That's a question mark for me. It could still be lost if not used frequently. Oh, he does say that. If you remember, I wrote recall, old, line, use, something like that. Disuse, unuse, whatever, line through it. Injury. Yeah, so I know this is true at least. Is this really answering the question? Let me come back to it. It can be recalled even if the brain is injured. Maybe or maybe not, but this was never said. This is, again, a trick question because they you may either you may infer it or you may guess it because of your own experience. We've all seen movies and television shows where the person with amnesia suddenly got their memory back, but that has no relation to what he actually said. This was never said. In fact, the opposite was said. They just said injuries may affect recall. It often comes back suddenly in old age. What? No, again, another one that was just not used at all. So C and D definitely eliminated. Okay, and it takes a long time to recall. I really don't remember this either. It seems very iffy to me. B is definitely the best answer because it fits, again, why? Because it fits my notes. Exactly. All right. Again, being able to make notes which explain the relationship between the keywords, the key elements. That's it. That's the secret. Because I've made good notes, even while I was giving you the lecture, which I have never seen before. By the way, I was making notes of what I was reading to you, which is really hard to do. And yet, all of these questions are very easy for me because of my very simple notes. I have, whatever, 7 words written down. Okay, next question. What will the class do next? Well, already I know that they're going to look at some kind of tricks to help them improve their memories, mnemonics and things like that. Okay, so what does it say? Okay, so I imagine that in my mind before I even look at the answers. Well, I think about what I remember they're going to do. Look at scans of the brain? No, I don't recall ever hearing that at all. It just wasn't there. Discuss what will be tested on the final? No. In fact, what I do remember, he used the final as an example. We will learn memory improvement devices or that will improve your abilities, which you may use on your final. So no, that was as an example, not the actual topic of the next class. Okay, A and B are gone. Practice inventing memorable visual images. Well, that may be part of the lesson, but it was not actually said that that's what they were going to do. Talk about methods for improving memory. There it is. In general, here's another important clue for you. If you pick the most general, if you're having problems, for example, between 2 possible answers, here's a basic clue, and this is true for listening and reading. If you're stuck with 2 answers, always in TOEFL, pick the more general answer. 9 times out of 10, that will be the correct answer. You're already at 50% chance of being right. If you change that 50% to 9 out of 10, you've got about a 95% chance of being right here. Pick the general answers. Again, this exam is not about specifics, this TOEFL listening. As opposed to, frankly, the IELTS listening exam, you will be asked to pick out very specific information as you're listening, phone numbers and prices and such. Nothing like that in the TOEFL. The listening tests are quite different, IELTS and TOEFL. IELTS will ask for very specific information. IELTS is much more varied in the types of questions and the kinds of things they want you to be able to hear. TOEFL is quite straightforward. It may seem complex when you first look at it, but the fact is it's very, very easy. They just want you to understand the general idea and the basic points. That's it. Okay, well, that would seem to be it indeed. Okay, well, thank you, Heidi, out there for listening. Is your sister here yet? And any other viewers who watched my one-man show today, thank you very much. Again, the key points. Can't you want to be using every clue you can. You want to be trying to predict what you're going to hear. This will actually help you a lot. You know, you may be wrong in your prediction, but always trying to look forward. Keep your focus forward. Do not try to think, oh, what did he just say? If you do that, you're doomed. Once it's gone, it's gone. You know, forget about it. Move on. They will frequently use an example or restate a point, or elaborate, give more detail about a point. So all is not lost if you miss something. For example, a list, there are 3 main reasons: culpability, reliability, sustainability, blah, 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 blah. You miss those 3 big words. Don't worry, for sure, he's going to cover each one of those and talk about it in greater detail. Don't panic. Cannot overemphasize the importance of practicing and being able to make reliable, good notes about the main points. It's everything. It is absolutely everything. In the TOEFL speaking test, you will also be reacting to recordings. It's the same thing. It's the same idea. There's going to be a topic and main points. If your notes are very, very economical, topic, one word, point one word, or co-location of word, 2 words that go together. A detail, P1, D1, P1, D1. Okay. Also, having some system of notes so you know about the relationship of these keywords. That's what all the questions are about. And once you can organize that in your notes, you can hear it and organize it. Piece of cake. Okay, thank you. For those who listen, I'm going to go. Hope you enjoyed it. Bye-bye.